How does a young talent go from the Real Madrid bench to suddenly looking like a Serie A star when he couldn't even convince his own club to keep him? That's exactly what has happened with Nico Paz. Played for Real Madrid's senior team at 20, scored in the Champions League, and assisted Messi in his Argentina debut. Everything pointed toward a bright future for Nico Paz at Real Madrid. But last summer, the club chose not to bring him back. What shifted? Where did the promise slip? And what was that we never saw at Madrid, which is finally emerging in Como? We'll be breaking down every stat, decision, and surprise. So make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you stay locked in. Nico Paz's journey is just heating up. Born in Tenerife, Spain, Nico Paz was always built for football. It runs in the family. His dad, Pablo Paz, played professionally and even represented Argentina in the 1996 Olympic Games. And like his father, Nico actually started out as a defender. But it didn't take long before coaches realized he was meant to be further up the pitch. Nico joined La Fábrica back in 2016, and from the start, he stood out as one of the most exciting attacking prospects in his age group. By 2021, he was already training with Raúl's Castilla side, showing signs that he was close to making the jump to bigger things. Now, every academy has a few players that generate buzz, but with Nico, it wasn't just about raw talent. Coaches at Madrid believed that he was the player most suited to the elite level. That's a big statement considering the talent pool in Valdebebas, but when you watch him play at the time, it all adds up. Paz has that blend of technical quality and football IQ that makes him stand out. He sees things early, takes up smart positions, and plays like someone who understands tempo, when to slow the game down and when to push. He's not flashy for the sake of being flashy. His 2023-24 season with Real Madrid and Castilla, he backed up the international hype. 10 goals and 4 assists in 29 appearances from midfield is no small feat, especially in Spain's third division. Anyone who knows Spanish football knows the third tier is more grind than glamour. It's not easy to shine when you're surrounded by seasoned defenders who've seen it all and won't think twice about shutting down a promising teenager. But that's what made Paz's development so mesmerizing. Even with those challenges, he still found ways to stand out. It was a matter of time before Nico made his first team debut, and it eventually happened in a group stage match against Barça as a substitute in the 77th minute. He came on to replace Federico Valverde at the Bernabeu. 3 days later, Paz made his La Liga debut for Madrid in a 5-1 victory over Valencia, coming on as a substitute in the 82nd minute for Dani Carvajal. And then came that moment. November 2023, UEFA Champions League. Real Madrid versus Napoli at the Bernabeu. Paz came off the bench, and within minutes scored a goal in a 4-2 victory. For any young Madrid player, scoring on a European night under the lights is a dream. But doing it in front of a packed Bernabeu in the Champions League against a side like Napoli, that's how stories begin. But for all the flashes of promise, the truth is that Nico Paz never really got a proper run in the Madrid first team. His 2023-24 campaign with the seniors was more of a footnote than a breakthrough. The young Argentine could only register 8 appearances that season for the first team, playing just 287 minutes. And even those minutes came in very specific situations. They came in late-game substitutions when the results was already wrapped up. Started in early round Copa del Rey matches where most of the regular starters were rested, or friendlies in preseason where the stakes were low and the lineups were fluid. And in some cases, like the Spanish Super Cup final against Barcelona, where he was physically present on the night Madrid lifted silverware but didn't play a minute. So if everything seemed to be going well, why didn't Nico Paz play much in Real Madrid after that electric start? The short answer, layers. The long answer, competitions. Carlo Ancelotti's midfield system often relied on balance, structure, and versatility, and it didn't quite suit the kind of player Paz is. People around the club felt he still needed to improve his pressing, his positioning when defending, and how he handled physical battles against tougher, more experienced midfielders. And at a club like Madrid, those things really matter. Ancelotti is not the type of manager who just throws young players in for the fun of it. He needs to trust that you'll do the job, especially in big games. That means you have to be solid defensively, smart tactically, and able to keep up with the pace of the top level. But it wasn't just that he had to work on his game. Nico Paz was entering a first team that is stacked in the midfield. You had Jude Bellingham, who had already cemented himself as a key figure in the squad. There was Brahim Diaz, who was finding rhythm and form. And to top it off, Madrid had just invested 20 million euros into Arda Güler, a teenage Turkish sensation who, like Paz, operated in that same creative space behind the striker. Tchouaméni handled the dirty work in midfield. Valverde and Camavinga brought non-stop energy running up and down the pitch. Then you had Kroos and Modric controlling games like clockwork. The truth is, Nico didn't fit any of those roles perfectly. He wasn't a defensive midfielder like Tchouaméni, he didn't have the same engine as Valverde or Camavinga, and he wasn't at the level of Kroos or Modric when it came to controlling the tempo. And beyond the tactical stuff and minutes on the pitch, there was another layer to all of this: the pressure. The kind that doesn't show up in the stat sheets but absolutely affects how a young player grows. Let's be honest, playing for Real Madrid is tough for anyone. Even the most experienced stars feel the heat under the Bernabeu lights. Now imagine being a 20-year-old academy kid, still finding your feet, with headlines already calling you the next big thing after one magical Champions League goal and an assist to Lionel Messi on your Argentina debut. That kind of hype sounds flattering, but it comes with weight. In Madrid, there's no space to grow quietly. Every touch is watched, every mistake is magnified, and every performance, no matter how short, is judged against the standards set by some of the greatest midfielders the game has ever seen. Modric, Kroos, you're not just trying to impress, you're being measured against legends. So Nico ended up in a weird spot. He was clearly talented, but didn't really fit into any of the roles Ancelotti needed. And when you're young and not quite ready to fill a specific gap in the squad, minutes are hard to come by. This whole situation was made even harder by one big problem. Nico had clearly outgrown Castilla. He'd done his part there. 10 goals and 4 assists in 29 games showed he was too good for the third division. There wasn't much left for him to prove at that level. In the 2023-24 season, he only made 8 senior appearances, and most of those were small cameos. A few minutes at the end of games that were already won, some Copa del Rey matches against weaker teams, and a couple of preseason friendlies. That was it. Just 287 minutes in total. Not nearly enough for a player who needed proper competitive football every week to keep developing. So naturally, the question came up: why didn't Madrid just loan him out again? Why sell him permanently? Another factor that played a role was Dani Ceballos. He might not be a headline grabber, but he's experienced, knows the system, and was happy to play a backup role. For the board, that made a big difference. Why hold on to a young player like Paz, who still needed time and minutes, when they already had a reliable, low-maintenance option in Ceballos ready to step in when needed? Then there's the business side of it. Madrid didn't just let Paz walk out the door with nothing in return. The deal was smart. They got €6 million up front, not a bad fee for someone who hadn't fully broken into the first team. But more importantly, they protected themselves with buyback clauses that kick in over the next few years. €8 million in 2025, €9 million in 2026, and €10 million in 2027. They also kept a sell-on percentage. So if Como sells him to another club down the line, Madrid still gets a cut. Nico Paz's move to Como wasn't just about getting out of Madrid. It was about finally getting the right environment to grow. And honestly, it couldn't have worked out better. At Real Madrid, opportunities were rare. At Como, they were built into the plan. From the start, the project was all about moving forward, literally and figuratively. The club had big ambitions, backed by Indonesian ownership with serious investment and vision. Como wasn't just hanging around in Serie B hoping for luck. They were building something. Then you add Cesc Fàbregas into the mix. First as a player, then stepping up as head coach, and suddenly the identity of the team became very clear. Possession-based football, intelligent movement, technical midfield play. It was exactly the kind of setup a player like Nico Paz thrives in. Playing as a number 10 or an advanced 8, he finally had the freedom to roam between the lines, get on the ball often, and dictate the pace of games. Fàbregas clearly understood what made Nico tick. He didn't just want him to play safe or keep things simple. He wanted him to take risks, drive forward, hit shots from range, thread those killer passes, and because Como were usually the ones controlling possession, especially in Serie B where a lot of teams sat back, Paz had the space to do exactly that. He could receive the ball in midfield, turn into space, and go at defenders. No panic, no pressure to rush, just time and trust. By the end of the 2024-25 season, he had racked up 12 goals and 8 assists across all competitions. But the surface stats only tell part of the story. His underlying numbers were just as impressive. Paz led all under-21 players in Europe's top 5 leagues for chances created per 90 minutes. He was also second in a list that had Lamine Yamal, Joao Neves, Ryan Cherki, and Kenan Yildiz for under-21 players with the most through passes completed. Paz's shot volume also jumped up, showing how much more often he was getting into dangerous positions and pulling the trigger. That powerful left foot we saw glimpses of at Madrid was now being used week after week. His dribbling numbers went up too. At Como, he had the green light to carry the ball through midfield and break lines himself, and he did it often. It became a key part of his game, one that added a whole new layer to his threat in the final third. And while he was still very much a creative player, the parts of his game that used to raise eyebrows at Madrid, his off-the-ball work, his pressing, his defensive positioning, all improved. He didn't suddenly turn into a defensive specialist, but he started doing the basics right. He tracked back, he stayed more connected to the midfield shape, he became more dependable, and that made a huge difference to Como's overall balance. It meant his teammates didn't have to cover for him. They could trust him. A big reason for that progress was Cesc Fàbregas. Having a coach who gets the creative midfield role, who lived it at the highest level, made a huge impact. And what a huge impact it has been. Seeing how Paz ended his 2024-25 Serie A season by landing a spot on both leagues under-23 team of the season and the league team of the season itself. It's crazy how a lot has changed for him in the space of months. He went from playing 287 minutes for Madrid to playing over 3,000 minutes for his Como. That's more than 10 times the experience in real games under real pressure. People at Como knew they had a good player on their hands, but even they were surprised by how fast Nico hit the ground running. Senior figures at the club admitted they expected him to contribute, just not this much, this quickly. He wasn't just keeping up, he was leading. And you could see he was going about his job well with tweets like this one. Guys, Nico Paz is a superstar. It's match week 7 and we're already here. Nico Paz's rise didn't go unnoticed last season though. In October 2024, after just a few months of regular football in Italy, he got his first senior call-up to the Argentina national team for a World Cup qualifier against Bolivia. That's no small feat. Argentina's midfield is packed with quality, and to break into that squad so early says a lot about the level Paz reached in such a short time. In hindsight, Real Madrid weren't wrong in their assessment. Paz did need consistent minutes in a serious league. The issue was he wasn't going to get those minutes at the Bernabeu. Between Castilla and short first-team cameos, his development had stalled. The talent was there, but the environment wasn't helping him move forward. Como gave him what Madrid couldn't, a real role in a team with ambition, responsibility on the pitch, and the freedom to grow without the constant pressure of fighting for minutes behind world-class stars. But here's the thing. The way he exploded in Italy raises some fair questions. Did Madrid maybe underestimate just how ready he actually was to contribute somewhere at a high level? Was the system at Madrid, and maybe even Ancelotti's style of management, too rigid to allow players like Paz to show what he could really do? Because looking at what he's doing now, you can't help but wonder. Maybe he didn't need a full season in the shadows. Maybe he was already more than just a one for the future. Maybe he just needed someone to give him the keys. Because by the end of his first season after signing for Como full-time, the narrative had completely shifted. Nico Paz was no longer just a promising academy kid from Madrid. He was a top-performing young midfielder in one of Europe's most competitive leagues, and everyone was starting to take notice. Thanks for sticking around till the end. We appreciate you rolling with us through Nico Paz's wild journey from Madrid's bench to bossing it in Serie A. But now we want to hear from you. Do you think Real Madrid made a mistake by letting him go so soon? And if Nico keeps balling like this, should Madrid activate that buyback clause, or is it already too late? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read everything. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a deep dive like this. If you're still hungry for more football stories, don't go anywhere. Click the next video on your screen. Trust us, it's just as fire as this one. Catch you there.